Welcome to Sustainable Talks, brought to you by the Blockchain and Climate Institute, BCI. Through fireside chats with our BCI experts, we will bring you regular insightful conversations and deep dives into the use of emerging technologies for climate and sustainability actions.
Welcome to this fireside chat. My name is Nadia Humphreys. I am a board advisor for the Blockchain Climate Institute. I also am the co-rapporteur on the European Commission Sustainable Finance technical expert group called the Platform now. And I also work in the Green Technical Advisory Group. My main day job is working at Bloomberg. Today, I am joined by Pedro Baiz, who is the Director of Research for Finance at Blockchain Climate Institute. He is also the Royal Society Entrepreneur in Residence at Imperial College in London, and he is the BSI or ISO expert on sustainable finance. Today's topic is going to be a really interesting one, a topic that is close to both of our hearts, and it's the use of blockchain for climate finance. This is really interesting to me, Pedro. So can you briefly explain to us what is blockchain, and just lightly how could it be used?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity, and yeah, thank you for the introduction, Nadia. Blockchains, yeah, it's good to start probably there from a definition. Very simple. To keep it very simple, it's literally just a database, but it's a database that have very special characteristics. Such as, for example, it is a distributed database. That's actually also why it's called, in many cases, distributed ledgers technology, of which blockchain is just one of the many types. It is also decentralized, which is also one of the key things that very people is excited. So there is no single central controller, but the things happen by consensus. There are multiple consensus mechanisms. And yeah, there are a few other characteristics, that I probably won't get into too much detail, but the idea is that the technology behind it allows to be unhackable to a great extent. And for example, one of the key things that it has is that it's immutable. For example, once that a block, for example, has been added into a blockchain, it remains there forever. So it cannot be hacked or modified. I think, well, that's a very probably quick, short definition of what actually makes a blockchain special.
That's really interesting. Okay, so let's try and unpick a little bit of that then. So we want to talk today about green investments. So how would that technology be applicable to green investments?
Okay, it's a good question. I think I go probably with what do you do now? Now that you have this database that have these special characteristics, and probably the way I try to explain is that it is very good at storing value, information which is valuable, and playing with this valuable information in many ways. You can, for example, store and lend value. You can exchange or move value very quickly. You can invest fund value, among other things. And yeah, now the question is, well, what is exactly that valuable information? An obvious application, which is the one that everybody knows about, is money. And that's where the world of cryptocurrencies and why everybody's so crazy about, because we all know that, money is valuable. We all, get paid, and that's one of the first uses of what blockchain has had, of moving value around. So, well, in other words, money. But related to climate, we now have been discovering that climate is also valuable. And that's where the whole thing is coming, and why, with the type of work that we're doing at BCI.
Thank you. That's good. So if I understand it correctly, you've mentioned at the start that it's a single source and it can't be hacked. And then we've touched lightly on greenwashing. On green investment. My next question is actually going to be about greenwashing. So is there anything that supports the fight against false green claims by using blockchain?
Yeah, I think there is definitely quite a lot of potential to fight greenwashing. I guess the problem, greenwashing as well, for those that don't understand, it kind of is related to the idea of, especially in the world of finance, where there is so much speculation and sometimes trying to get quick money, is that because of all this push of green finance and ESG financing, a lot of people make claims that are not true. And yeah, definitely there is application there of where a blockchain can come in and provide that veracity, that verification process of the actual data being right and hasn't been modified to make it look green when in reality it was not. So yeah, there is a lot of potential and technology in that, but we have to be clear as well. No, there are many steps here, and well, Nadia, you know very well as well. There are many processes, and blockchain is kind of one of the elements, and not the full solution.
Yeah, thank you. So I think people might be a little nervous around blockchain. What would you characterize as maybe some of the main risks or blockers in people starting to adopt blockchain for this use, Pedro?
It's a great question, and I think I probably will refer back to my experience on digital technologies in general. My day job is related a lot about AI, for example, artificial intelligence, and thanks to all of these, I've been heavily involved in digital transformation programs, which it can involve all of these things combined, blockchain, AI, etc., etc. And by far, from all my experience on digital transformation programs, including with big financial institutions like HSBC, for example, the biggest problem is not the tech. So the biggest problem is not with blockchain or AI. Is actually that culture, that how the interaction between the people, the processes, the business kind of connects with that technology. And that, unfortunately, well, it takes time. It's not something, from day to night. If you've been an expert in whatever you've been doing something for whatever 20 years, and suddenly, you cannot just change from day to night in just a few months. Oh, I will use these, and now everything is happily ever after. It takes time. Also, if we talk, in fact, specifically about finance, for example, which is such a heavily regulated sector, there are even more things to consider as well. And well, as you as well as an expert in finance know, all the risks involved, all the checks that have to be put in place. We all have gone through kind of another financial crisis now induced by COVID. And yeah, it's lots of things to consider that of which, yeah, it takes time. There's no time here to discuss all potential risk. My best suggestion with all of these problems and from my experience of digital transformation program is we should try to engage all relevant stakeholders and see how they get affected by all of these potential innovations, and well, making sure we bring everybody on board. That would be my main suggestion with this.
So that's interesting when you talk about engaging all different stakeholders, and you also talk a little here about it's not the technology perhaps, but the adoption and methodology of adoption of the technology. Do you have any hints or tips from experiences that you've had on how to overcome them? And maybe kind of talking through how that differentiates between governments and regulation versus activities within the private sector, as you've mentioned some examples. I think that would be really interesting for people.
Yeah, it's a good, I have to say, this is still a learning curve for me. And well, actually, the fact that I work with so many type of organizations, academic, NGOs, and commercial ones as well, shows that I really love to engage everybody and try to bring everybody together. I think, well, from my consulting experience, which actually a lot of these things I've done through consulting, is the specific situation, the specific project may require, specific conditions. So you kind of need to pick what we could call use cases or demonstrations and try to go deeper into those use cases. For example, well, I probably can refer to work ongoing in our research division at BCI, for example, around blockchain green bonds. This is, fixed income domain. We're talking sometimes also about loans, bonds, and how these can be combined. And what blockchain can offer specifically in this type of financial products that are devoted to, support green projects. At BCI, we are trying to engage everybody involved here, obviously starting from regulators, but obviously financial institutions, issuers or project developers that are actually doing the green project. We're particularly focused with real estate. There is a lot of work that we need to do about energy retrofits, making our homes more energy efficient. And yeah, as you can see, I've been naming more and more stakeholders. and yeah, we can go even deeper here into details about specific solutions. And for example, I can cite in that domain, great work that has been going on in the UK with, for example, the Green Finance Institute, which was established about 2 years ago. And they have a specific, coalition for making all the real estate sector, greener, with around 23 specific demonstrators. For example, like building renovation passports ideas that, for example, we could put on a blockchain, among many other ideas. When we start going deeper, you realize how big this could be and how many stakeholders you need to involve. And yeah, that would be my main suggestion, just to try to get into something that you see there is potential to get to market relatively quick, bring everybody on board, and yeah, and start solving one problem at a time, because many issues will appear when you start trying to get this and make it a reality.
That's good to know. There's no sort of closed, finite use case. We can continue to be creative and experiment with the way that blockchain is used. I think I've definitely learned that today. So if we kind of move to the future, then you talked about a couple of the examples that you're working with. But in your opinion, what does the future look like for blockchain in climate finance?
Oh my God, it looks really huge, if I have to say. I mean, as I mentioned, we are working on specific areas. This year, for example, the work of carbon market, voluntary carbon markets, with a task force on scaling the voluntary carbon markets that initiated this year. Again, with Mark Carney as the biggest sponsor behind it, all in preparation for COP26. We have been discussing again how much, voluntary carbon markets could benefit from blockchain, and which appears in the report, by the way. So it's something that they acknowledge, and they say they will actually want to work more. But this year as well, there came something else, the Dasgupta review. For those who don't know, many compare the Dasgupta review, such as the Stern review that was released in 2006, which essentially gave at the end the foundation for the Paris Agreement in 2015. That the Dasgupta review, by the way, is all about the value of biodiversity. So when we talk about the potential, of this type of technology, which as we know, is all about storing and keeping track, exchanging value, and now the recognition across many different sectors of society that there are many valuable things, not just the climate now. Now, from this year, we know the biodiversity, and we know that more and more. In fact, the whole world of ESG includes lots of social aspects. I mean, the sky is the limit. What could we see in 5 or 10 years as we start to acknowledge and recognize that there are many valuable things that at the moment, for example, financial sector haven't really been accounted for, but that we could, and technologies such as blockchain could enable that. The possibilities are endless.
Thank you, Pedro. Wow, what a lot of content covered in a short period of time. So let me do some justice by adding a few concluding statements. I think I like the phrase, the sky is the limit, that you used there. And I do want people to kind of come at blockchain with an open mind in terms of some of the examples that you've given of the way that it can help shape or solve problems related to climate or climate finance. I thought the biodiversity example you gave was particularly interesting. So maybe as a concluding statement for those who are listening, keep an open mind, think through ways that you need to, and in Pedro's words, have a good storage solution, the ability to keep track ultimately with provenance and to monitor value within your workflow. Climate finance is changing at an incredibly rapid rate, and it needs to. We need solutions, and we need them now. I think the IPCC report that has come in very recently highlights that more than ever. So if you are interested, please subscribe to our LinkedIn and YouTube channels to join the conversation and be up to date with our latest publications and any more fireside chats that come through. Pedro, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
We hope you enjoyed this Sustainable Talks and gained insight from our experts. Please subscribe to our LinkedIn and YouTube channels to join the conversation and be up to date with our latest news and upcoming Sustainable Talks.